Have you ever been looking for something and suddenly you realize you're looking everywhere but in the right place?
Welcome to the show. Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Welcome to Your Ultimate Life, the podcast for you to enjoy a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. Me, I'm Kellen, the sovereign architect. Everything I do, every live, every podcast, every book, is to help you design, build, and live your ultimate life. Purpose, prosperity, and joy, or whatever your words are. That destination is available to every single person breathing air. It's harder for some than others. Some start in more difficult circumstances than others. Some start in good places and then dive right down in the muck and the swamp, only to realize later that they didn't have to do that, and maybe, hopefully, claw their way out and get back on the path, up the mountain they want to be climbing. I had a thought the other morning, and it was pretty funny. And here's what it was. So, I have a PTAC, a personal truth and commitment document. And if you don't know what that is, living with purpose and power will teach you, and it will change your life. Every day and everything about it. It'll help you make money, feel better, etc. I know, bold claim, and you're already rattling nonsense. Living with purpose and power. You can't argue with me till you read it. Anyway, so I was thinking that the line that I have, it's about how I prepare myself. And I have this long document that's got 9 pages in it and takes, I've got it memorized, and it takes 25 minutes to recite. And it took some months, years to memorize it all, but I have. But anyway, one page is about how I prepare specifically. And it starts like this. Every day I draw breath, I enter refining fire to prepare for the purpose and mission I have declared. And then it goes on to some other stuff. And right now, like you see this great big bandage. It's way behind my ear and in front of it, and big honking thing, right? I can't shower, I can't do anything because it's on my hair, and I can't shave, and all kinds of stuff. And the answer is really, so what? It's just one of those things. But anyway, the reason I have this is because I had a big piece of cancer surgery on the back of my ear, and it started out as just a little spot. And 2 months ago, they did a biopsy on it and said, all right, we'll hope we got it all, And I had to wear a bandage for about 4 weeks. Then 3 weeks, 4 weeks. By 5 weeks, it was healed. But anyway, in about the 5th week, just a few days after I'd quit wearing a Band-Aid, not a big one like this, but a little one, I got a phone call. Yeah, we didn't get it all. You got to come in. So anyway, we scheduled an appointment about a month in advance. I guess it's 2.5 months ago now that started. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Last Tuesday, I'm recording this on a Saturday. So last Tuesday, I went in, and this is called Mohs, M-O-H-S, Mohs surgery. And maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you've had it. I don't know. But anyway, they're going to go in there and take it off. And here's what they do. They cut a bunch out. And then you sit there in the chair for a while, right? And then they go take it in the lab and look and see if they got it all. And in my case, they didn't. So they came back and said, okay, we got to do it again. So more needles in the ear for numbing and da-da-da. I sat there, and then another one, and you can feel them scraping. They're digging into your ear. And if it was anything like the first one, that wound looked pretty deep. Anyway, so this is round 2. And then you sit there some more, waiting to see if it's fixed. They came back the second time and said, yeah, we got it all. So we're going to, now, we're not done. Now we're going to cut into your face. Now, this little space of skin between the edge of your ear and, like, if you're a guy, where your whiskers grow, right here where your sideburns are. So that space is only about, that wide. So we're going to cut some skin out of there and do a skin graft. And I'm looking at him like, what? And he said, yeah, it ended up being big. And he put his fingers like this. It's that big. Holy cow, that's the whole back of the ear where it is, right? So imagine putting it in Canada, it's a $2 coin, a toonie is what he said. They have a loonie and a toonie, and they call the $1 coins loonies because the loon, that bird's on it. But anyway, the toonie is because, of course, it's $2. In the U.S., that'd be the size of a really good-sized silver dollar, those old big silver dollars. Anyway, if you lay that back there, you figure it out. So lay there some more numbing, more da-da-da. Snip, 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 and I can hear, when they do stitches, right? You can feel the thread. Going through the skin, and they put stitches first on what they call the donor site. Now, of course, that makes sense, but I'd never heard it expressed like that. So they stitched up the donor side, and then they had to stitch the skin, over the top of the whatever. And I, of course, haven't seen anything because immediately they put this whole compression bandage, and it's packed in between the skin and the back of the ear and so forth. Anyway, so I can't touch it. I go back now this coming Wednesday. By the time you see this, that'll be past. But to take off the bandage on the donor site and take the stitches out of the donor site and then bandage that up again. And then 3 more weeks, holy moly, before they take the stitches out of the site where the graft is. Anyway, so after all this stuff, I'm in the office from like 10:30 to 2:33 in the afternoon, and we're talking a 3-4 hour procedure. So, okay, I came away with a new respect for all this, and Joy's been harping on me for years to wear sunblock, because I used to have red hair, now it's all white, but because I'm fair-skinned and burn easy, so wear sunblock, wear a hat, wear sunglasses, da-da-da-da-da, and I am doing that now. Suddenly today, I'm starting, okay, where's my hat and my sunglasses? So I started doing that today, and I'm going to do it diligently because this is the 3rd time I've had cancer. I had one on a lump on my eyelid, and that was fun to take off, and then a piece here right next to my nose. You don't care about my skin cancer journeys. Probably you've got your own. And you've got your own journeys that are not skin cancer. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you that is because the morning after, so Wednesday morning after this whole mess, my head was throbbing and the sores were throbbing on both of them. And, I got pain pills. All I can take is Tylenol because I can't take any naproxen or NSAID because I had atrial fibrillation a while ago. And so that's not good for that. And they've got me on blood thinners for that. And if you followed me, I've got, I'm scheduled for back surgery where they're going to screw L5 to S1 on both sides later in the year. And I've been dealing with the disc being gone between L5 and S1 and those nerves being smashed flat. Now for 3 years. It's exactly 3 years ago this July, right now. I'm recording this in July. You'll see it in August. But anyway, so I've been hobbling around for 3 years. In the last 2 or 3 months, it's been getting worse. And they've been giving me, cortisone shots and hyaluronic acid and nerve blocks and this and that and the other. And then they took away, one pain pill. Can't take ibuprofen or naproxen anymore because of, the interaction with the blood thinners, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, I got up, and you need that background or the story won't be funny. I'm not telling you that so you see poor Kellen, because I love my life and I wouldn't trade any of those things for anything. I love every one of them. And my current statement says, every day I draw breath, I enter refining fire to prepare for the purpose and mission I have declared, right? And I said to nobody in particular, because I get up at 5 and Joy doesn't get up till, later because she stays up a lot later than I do. We're just 2 or 3 hours off on schedule, but that's okay. But anyway, so I said, does every mountain that I have to climb, does I have to be a fire-breathing mountain? To nobody in particular, because as I walked across the kitchen, at 6 in the morning, after I'd gotten up at 5 and done my exercises and all that jazz, I'm hurting everywhere. And I'm thinking, this is hard. Does it all have to be fire breathing? So I've changed my PTAC, and it now says, I am that each day I draw breath. I climb the fire breathing mountains to prepare for the purpose and mission I have declared. Decided to embrace them. Now, the reason I told you that whole story was not in any way, shape, or form, so you'll feel sorry for me or anything else, because maybe you've got stuff that's twice as bad or 5 times as bad. I don't know what you're walking through life carrying. What I do know is every person I meet is either currently carrying or has a story about what they have carried and overcome. Now, that doesn't mean everybody's overcome theirs, because they haven't. All you have to do is look at the news on any channel in the U.S. or Canada, at least. They're the channels that I watch. Sometimes I watch the BBC, but it's just as bad there in Britain. And you see everybody, nearly everybody, blaming, pointing fingers, recriminations, name-calling. They're painting the picture like the world is a disaster. It's not. The world is beautiful. You are a divine being, so am I. Together we can lift and bless, and we can bring about that 5D world of peace and love and harmony and all that squishy stuff we talk about. So you might say, I'd love to do that. And I say everybody that I talk to talks like that, the good way, meaning about how to change that. And maybe that's because that's who I choose to surround myself with. I don't doom scroll any, zero, none. I just don't. I watch news for just a few minutes each day to find headlines, to see if something's happening or something big has happened that changes, stuff in a major way. But I don't doom scroll, and I don't sit and watch news, and I don't participate in name calling and political garbage or religious garbage or anything else, pointing fingers and calling people out on Facebook or X or Instagram or anything. Just don't do that. And there's a reason. Because I am a beacon of light, a vessel of love, and a conduit of power. I want every word coming out of my mouth to be love for you, to be help for you, and to bless you. And the reason everybody that I talk to in my world is like that is because they're guests on this show. And my goal here is to share your stories. My goal is to share your choices to overcome, to lift and bless and serve. And so every single guest, I have several that I've just talked to this week that I've just lined up that are coming in the next few weeks that are that way. And I talk to them and I ask them what they do and how they got where they are. And inevitably, the reason they're attracted to this show and my other show in LA Talk Radio is because they're that. They have overcome. They have chosen to let those fire-breathing mountains in their lives, however big they were, to refine them, to lift them and bless them. So you might wonder and say to yourself, and I say this because I used to do this. I used to say to myself, I'd love to help people. I want to help people. I want to do this and that. And I didn't really know how, except be nice and talk nice and smile and be helpful and serve in the community and in the church and those kinds of things, which I was doing and I'm still doing. But I didn't really know how to serve at scale. I didn't know how to serve in a way that made lots of money, that provided so much value that I got boatloads of cash so that I could increase the reach, increase all of that so I could serve more people. See, I don't need anything. I have food, clothing, shelter, recording studio, video. I have everything in the universe that I want and need. And I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. And what I discovered is I'm not magic and I'm not special and that anybody can create that. And I really mean that. Anybody can create it. So when people say to me, oh, I want to help people, but I don't know how. I got bills and family, and it's the wrong time, and this, and they list all the reasons they can't fulfill that yearning. I just love them, and the reason is because I know exactly what that feels like, because I used to say exactly the same thing. Really, I did, over and over again. And then wondering what has to magically change so that can suddenly be true. And so what I see is that people are looking everywhere to find that opportunity and path, except where the gold really is. You know, what they want is some magical Facebook tactics or Insta secrets, or they want some funnel language or AI hacks or platform tricks. And they want that because what they're saying is, I can't see the way. I can't see it, so there must be a trick that, Kellen, you know, and I used to say that to different people, and I don't say it about anybody anymore because I know what the secret is. And I'm going to share it with you in a minute because I'm not trying to not share it. I want to share it. And so I used to look at that too. Here's your marketing fix. I'm going to fix this, and the language and attraction marketing and cadences on Facebook, and how you talk in the customer language and getting in the conversation in their head, and all of the things that you've already heard that feel attractive because it just feels like there's something. If you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, just grind and do the work and post 97 million times and don't give up and don't give a shit what anybody says, and 47 F words. And then that's Gary. And I love Gary. Believe me, I know him. I introduced him. I was the MC at a conference where he was a keynote a couple of different years. And so I count him as a friend. I've got a client that's not a current client, but was a client in the past that knew him when he was growing up, when he was in his parents' basement, before he even did all those videos that he did on wine tasting. But anyway, here's the thing. Some of this stuff may help. The Facebook hacks and Insta secrets and AI, processes and prompt things and funnels, language and platform tricks and all this stuff. But the real key, the most strategic path, hear me, the most strategic path to a serious authority asset that will give you the reach and the power. It will get you speaking and teaching and people listening to you and buying your stuff. Here it is. It's the story you have already lived. And I say that without hesitation because I know my audience. Now, if I'm talking to a group of people who are out rioting and doing other things, I wouldn't say that because they haven't allowed their story to refine them. They're out being violent and angry. And I'm not saying people shouldn't protest if they want to, but I'm talking about those that are not really trying to create change, but instead are sowing chaos. So here's the truth. The story in your life where you've already made the choices and decisions to overcome and to lift and to bless, that story of your becoming is the most strategic path to your first $100,000. I know because I have done it over and over again for me with books that I've written and with clients over and over again. I know it works. I know it's powerful, and I know it's your most powerful asset because it is the truth of what you've lived. And I can say that without hesitation. Everything else we learn how to do is something that we know about, and the story of what we've lived is bulletproof, attractive, powerful stuff, good stuff. Content, if you will, products, services, keynotes that you can use to bless, serve, and get paid well. Now, that's not because the story is easy, but it is because it's yours. Now, most people don't understand this when I say it because they think either I don't have that big of a story, which is not true. 100% of the time, as soon as I talk to someone who says that, ask a few questions, and they mouth drops open and they realize they have an awesome, staggering, mind-blowing story that they could use. But the story doesn't write itself. You don't just stand up and talk about your story. It is structuring it in a way that carries truth because you and I, we've lived a bunch of years. I'm 70. I'll be 71 in December, and maybe you're 42 or 57 or whatever. And so you've lived a bunch of years too. And if we try to tell the whole story, it's overwhelming, it's too much, and it doesn't matter. The thing that it does matter is finding the key events that shaped who you are, that brought you to the place right now where your yearning is to help elevate the world from 3D to 5D, or heal people with this kind of trauma, or serve people that are going through a divorce. I talked to a guy yesterday that is really specifically working about men, teaching them how to understand their emotions and be able to express them and use them powerfully in a positive way. Why? Guess what? That was his own journey and experience. Every time that's the case, when someone feels called to help, ask them, who do you want to help? Oh, I could help everybody. Okay, cool. Who do you think you could help the most, the fastest? Well, and then they list the group that is exactly them a year or 2 or 5 or 10 ago, every single time. And it's not surprising, because that's the truth of who you are. That's how you got where you are. So here's the thing. You are sitting on the source material. And you're chasing tactics. You're sitting on the gold mine. Okay? Your life is the mine, and your becoming is the gold. Sorry, I'm itching my head. Those Band-Aids make my head itch. All right. The fastest path is not borrowed strategy. Please hear me. It is structured truth. Now, your story, the story of your becoming, not any story, not a made-up story, the distilled essence of the truth of your life. It doesn't need any external permission. You don't need citations. You don't need footnotes. You don't need academic proof or market permission or another guru or another credential or some borrowed framework. You need honesty, clarity, structure, courage, because it does require vulnerability, and service. That's what you need. Your story is specifically powerful because you know it best. It's absolutely true for you. You have lived the data, so when you speak, it carries that ring of absolute truth. It creates trust faster than you can even think. And it differentiates you, sets you apart from everybody else instantly. Every single time. The story of your becoming is the one piece of intellectual property no one else can own ever, period. Nobody can outcompete you at being you. Your story is not generic. Your failure to structure it is generic. It's repeated over and over again. The thing you know best is the thing you can monetize fast, yet most people either never do it or they do it last. That is absolute insanity. Now, I said something about creating 100K, and I'll tell you how right now. Here's what makes it a $100,000 asset. Now, remember, an asset is something that can create value beyond the moment. Okay? If you're helping someone, like if you coach somebody right now, that's something you do right now, and maybe it goes on and maybe it doesn't. Or if you open the door for someone, or you help someone, or you go paint somebody's house, the value is created in your work, and you traded hours for money. Your story can, if you want to, and this is about that structure I was talking about, it can become a book. You know me, I've written 20-something books, right? 24, I think, but I've got 6 more underway. So, hey, who's counting? A book. It can and should become a keynote speech. But you don't just get up and talk about stories out of your life. It takes structure, an arc. You're taking your reader, your listener, or your coaching client on a journey from where they are, not knowing or having a thing, to the pot of gold, over the rainbow, the victory line, the podium. And if you don't know the path, you ain't helping nobody get there. So your story can be a book. Now, a book is tough and easy at the same time. It's easy because you're living the source material. It's a little tough because it is a monologue, right? And you've got to walk someone through there, and you've got to figure out, how do I keep them interested? How do I keep it flowing? How do I keep them focused? How do I know where to start? How do I know where to end? Well, you need a process to make that happen. And in all the books I've written and all the people I've helped write, I have not only discovered, but created a bulletproof, absolute, world-class, best in the universe process. Not because I'm magic, but because I've done it a bunch and it works. All right, your story can become a workshop. It could become a coaching offer if you want to coach. It could become a course, which is a passive income asset you create once and sell over and over again. It can become a consulting framework. Mine did. I created in the professional work that I did, because of what I did and lived through, a consulting framework, and it made me millions because I took my experience and turned it into a consulting framework. Your story can become a media platform. My goal, as you know, is to reach 300 million people. That means I need to be on media, and I am a media platform. Your story can also become a lead magnet, a little piece of it. It'll be a signature method if you want to create it. It can be a sales conversation. The 100K doesn't come from one magic book sale. Okay, I've had people do that. Write a book and put it up. How come I didn't sell 1 million? Like, what happened? Most people don't make any money selling books, very much. A few $100, few $1,000. You got to do more with it. The back end, the writing of the book is it's like going to the gym and you work out until you got it. And then, you can run, you can lift, you can do whatever for a long time. Well, that's why writing the book and doing the work it takes to create that monologue is the best way, the most strategic way, period. And all of the money that you can make over and over again, and I say 100K, that's just the first year. It all comes from the ecosystem that you build from the story. And again, it doesn't make itself. I'm not trying to make this sound like we snap fingers, but I've done it over and over again, and it is the best, the fastest, the most authentic, and the longest lasting, because the story of your becoming is permanent. Like I said, the story is the mine. Your gold, the gold is your asset, the things you create. So here's some possible path. You could sell 10 clients at a 10K if you have a high ticket system, or 5 at 20K, or you could sell 20 clients at 5K. You could sell some workshops plus follow-on coaching. I have a client that did that. Free workshops, and then people sign up. They want more because a 2-hour or a half-day workshop, it can't possibly communicate the gold in your life that you have learned in a 2 or 4-hour workshop. You can talk about it, but you can't lead someone through that, especially if it's given the difficulties that we've all experienced that you have overcome. You can do speaking plus a program. I do that all the time. I speak, people ask questions, I sign them up into a program. It can become a book plus consulting. I've done that. One of the books I wrote is called The Results Equation. I can't find it right now. Here it is, The Results Equation. This is a book, and it turned into some consulting. But I did have to write the book first. One of the things I love to do is a challenge, plus a high-ticket offer, because in a challenge, over a week, people get to experience you 5 days for an hour a day, and then you have an offer on the end because they realize that you are the real deal. You've got the goods. You can do this, and you can take them where they want to go. But all of those things mean we have to do it, because it isn't going to be winning the lottery. 100K asset's not a fantasy. It's just architecture. And the good thing is that's just the first year, and you can do it over and over again. So from one book, you can create $100,000 every year as long as you want to. Now, if you write other books or create other programs at 200K, 300K, 500K, that's what I'm doing. The money is not in the memory of what happened and what you did. The money, and hear this, The money comes from the transformation you build from it. Because whatever has gone on in your story, my own personal story, I struggled. I had a little bit of a rough upbringing, some abuse, physical stuff and sexual stuff and emotional stuff. Okay, fine. It's not about whining or a trauma dump. The money is in the transformation that I built from it. Now, I took a long time to start. I struggled with those things for decades, literally. I was 52 years old when I finally realized I could build from this and took the courage to start changing who I was and building exactly like I'm talking to you. So I have bulletproof, battle-tested authority for the last 20 years doing this. The money is not in the transfer. It is not in the memory of what happened. It is in the transformation that I built from it. And so is yours. Over and over again, people come to me with amazing stories. And then I say, what are you doing with this awesome path you've walked? This awesomeness that you've created inside yourself, overcoming these challenges and difficulties. Well, I coach a little bit, or, well, I talk to people and I help them. I'm a sounding board. And if that's all you want to do, that's fine. I'm not saying you have to do it, but if you really want to have a big impact and make scads of money, then take that journey and turn it into assets that continue to produce for you. All right. Your story becomes valuable when it becomes the path someone else can walk. But if you or I can't talk specifically about that path and teach it and help people, it's not going to do anything. All that remains is someone looks at you and says, wow, I wish I could be like you. Not accessible for me. Because why? Because you haven't made the path available. I said in the beginning, people are chasing tactics. Tactics without your identity is just noise. People chase, and I say this laughing because it's me, content strategy before the message is clear. Funnels before the offer is bulletproof. Ads before clarity. I did that and spent $5,000 or $10,000 a month for several months and realized I was just pouring money down the toilet. People chase visibility before authority. So they post like crazy thinking that throwing stuff against the wall, you have no authority. You have no authority because you haven't done anything with the one thing that would give you awesome authority, which is your story. People chase an audience before their own transformation is organized and visible. All that does is produce scattered effort. You can't scale confusion. Hear that. If you haven't got absolute clarity on your message and a clear transformation that you're providing, and you have not created the authority, which you have, you just haven't organized it yet. If you chase those things ahead of time, all you're going to do is scale confusion. You're going to waste money and time. If, on the other hand, you start with what you already know, what you know from your own battle-tested stuff. I don't mean some hack on Insta. What your life has taught you. If you start with that and then think about who needs it, really, who's desperate to have a shortcut or some time compression from what you fought and struggled to learn. If you know clearly what the transformation or changes that your path can create, if you know clearly what promise you can make. Now, I want to talk about that for a sec because this is a promise I can make. I've done this book to bank, $100,000 thing a whole bunch of times, so I know what I can promise. I can promise that you can write a book that's powerful, that contains your story. You can create products and services behind it, and if you do the work, you can make 100K. I know that. Then if you decide to write the book, and I say write the book because that is the most structured way to create the story you must tell. And after that, if you can then create the offer that delivers it, then tactics will serve you. They will serve you well. Okay, but if you do the tactics before you've got the offer and the clear transformation and story, you've got nothing. okay? Here's a couple of thoughts for you to just think about, because I've chased those tactics too before I was clear, believe me, and wasted tens, maybe even hundreds of thousands, not all at once, but over time. Tactics amplify what is already there. Okay, if what is there is vague, tactics amplify vagueness. When I talk to people about this, one of the first questions we talk about is exactly what is your message? We get out of your own way and step into your greatness and all that crap. I need to know exactly how you've done that. Describe to me the circumstances of your own transformation, what you've fought, what you've overcome, and who you are today. And when I say that, and then some people, well, I don't really have answers. Yes, you do. You just haven't been willing to do the work to mine it and be vulnerable enough to share it. Let me help you. Okay? The market doesn't need noise. It needs your lived, honest authority. Don't bother building a megaphone before you know what the message is. Okay? Now, I've said that as clearly as I can, and let me tell you why people are afraid of this. It requires exposure. It requires you to tell the truth. Stop hiding. Pick an audience. Make a promise. It requires you to be seen. It requires you to charge cash, and in some cases, big ticket. It requires you to let your life stand for something. Tactics feel safer. Messing with logos and websites and posting and Insta stories, and they feel safer because it doesn't require any of that stuff. They keep the spotlight on methods rather than identity. You really don't want to do that. A lot of people would really rather learn another platform than tell the truth about who they are and what they know. Strategy is where people often hide from their own story. You cannot outsource the authority of your own becoming. You can't do that. You can tell people and enroll them in it and have them be evangelists for you. Now, that's good and that's perfect. That's part of what we do. But you can't outsource your own authority because it's your lived experience. The asset you want, it's waiting behind the truth you keep avoiding. Now, that might scare you, but it's true. Now, because I have lived this and learned this the hard way, by chasing all those very things I just said, one of the greatest and most joyful things that I get to do is help you do it faster. Time compression. I've been working on this now for 19 years. But I've got it dialed in, baby. So I want you to go to Dream, Build, Write It. DreamBuildWriteIt.com. DreamBuildWriteIt.com. Right now. Doesn't cost you a nickel, but it does cost you time. Because in that challenge, which is just now right quick, September 14th, I do it twice a year, you will learn to how to mine your life. You'll learn how to find gold you haven't used yet. And you'll see the path from book to bank. Now, don't just sign up for it. Block it on your calendar, September 14 to 18. Don't just register. You're worth way more than that. Your first million is laying right behind your story. Show up live because the real transformation is in the room. Okay? Your first 100K authority asset is not out there. It's buried in the life you may just be calling ordinary. You're more. You're divine. You're capable. You've walked the path and climbed the fire-breathing mountains. I can promise you, going to that thing, Dream, Build, Write It, it'll be like nothing you've done. And if you have the courage, it may set you on a path that is really fast, an accelerating path, so that you can move forward and create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellenFlukigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on the ground.